Take heart, it is I. These are the divine words. He is the one who is her own. If one looks at the Christian planet, the Christian history, one sees that actually He is there. And His power does perform miracles. He hears. He remembers His own word, that when 2 or 3 are gathered in His name, He will be there in the midst, and also that when they agree in what they ask for, it will be done for them. One does observe that happening. Intense prayer, in which there is union of hearts, leads quite often to things really moving and happening. It happened in Wales over a century ago. I heard it from my grandfather, how people all over the country had been crying out for the Spirit to come. As he put it in Welsh, ac bydd, and He came. It was a phenomenon. And it has been underlined by authors that it was the consequence of much intense prayer. But closer to home, it happens. It happens actually in unexpected corners. God breaks through in the ambit of the people where they are at. Amongst the simple, for instance, the travelling people, He does actually take very seriously their prayer when made with that sincerity of heart. And He has a language for them which they understand. He is very interested in His people. And the simple people are favoured because they have no help but God. There is a beauty in the simple people, as in the simplicity of an uncontaminated child. Years ago, a good lady went on pilgrimage to Our Lady's shrine at Knock, and it was before the time when there was a huge protection, and she was able to scratch at the gable end of the church where she had appeared, and took away these precious gratings with her as a bit of knock in her pocket. She had to make a long voyage, however, over to America, and she carried with her her precious treasure. And then something happened very similar to what we have in today's gospel. It all broke loose, and they were very much in danger. But she had her precious treasure and her more precious faith, and she gambled all, and with fervent prayer, notice fervent prayer to Our Blessed Lady, who helps the poor, she cast her treasure on the face of the waters and sacrificed it, as it were, in one big act of faith, praying that there would be a subsiding of these terrible waves. And immediately they died down. some years later, there was another case crossing that same terrible Atlantic Ocean, when again it was ferocious and putting people and crew in grave danger. A Protestant minister was on board, and he observed before his eyes something happen. This passenger suddenly pulled off something from around the neck and cast it into the ferocious waves, the which immediately calmed down. But there was one last big wave, and out of this big wave, which crashed on the boat, was cast up this object. The Protestant minister was flabbergasted, and when all had calmed down, and when all were relieved, he calmly went to the passenger and asked what had been cast into the sea. It was the brown scapula. So great was his astonishment that he became a Catholic. We notice that God honoured faith and simplicity. He doesn't like noise and self-sufficiency. Years ago, in student days, I was in a meeting on the student campus where Christians were at prayer. And we were in prayer mode at one point, and somebody who had gifts came out with this: there is someone here who is concerned about money issues. The Lord is saying this: it is not a problem for him. Maybe that would apply here and now, the beginning of this year. Do we believe in God or in ourselves? For if we control by worry the whole universe, we are playing God. How much freedom comes from hearing the Saviour's calm words as he walks the waters. Take heart, it is I. Have no